The betrayal. Ambassador Elena Novak adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform as the shuttle approached the massive orbital station of the Saltari Concordat. Through the viewport, the jewel-like structure gleamed against the backdrop of stars, its crystalline arms extending in a perfect geometric pattern that spoke of mathematical precision beyond human architectural capabilities. "Nervous, Ambassador?" Captain Wei asked from the pilot's seat, his eyes never leaving the navigation console. "Excited," Elena replied, though the flutter in her stomach wasn't entirely from anticipation. 2 years of signals, translation work, and preliminary exchanges have led to this moment. First official contact with an advanced alien civilization. She brushed an invisible speck from her sleeve, where Earth's emblem, the United Continents against a field of stars, stood in stark contrast to the midnight blue of her uniform. The shuttle slowed as it approached the designated docking bay. Crystal-like structures parted to allow their entry, the material seemingly flowing rather than mechanical in nature. Elena had studied every scrap of information about the Saltari, but witnessing their technology firsthand filled her with renewed wonder. "The extraction team is on standby in the outer system," Wei reminded her quietly. "Emergency protocols are active." Elena sighed. "I've told Admiral Harrison a dozen times that bringing military vessels, even at a distance, sends the wrong message. We're here as diplomats, not invaders." Wei's expression remained neutral. "The Admiral believes in preparing for all contingencies, ma'am." The shuttle settled onto the landing platform, with barely a whisper of sound. Through the viewport, Elena could see the Saltari delegation waiting. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in iridescent scales that shifted with subtle movements. Elegant crests adorned their heads, vibrant with colors that human eyes could barely process. "Remember your training," Wei said as the airlock cycled, "and remember that you represent all of humanity today." Elena nodded, squared her shoulders, and stepped through the airlock as it opened. The atmosphere was breathable, as their preliminary exchanges had confirmed, though it carried a faint scent of ozone and something like cinnamon. First emissary Thilax, distinguished by elaborate gold-tinged patterns across his chest scales, stepped forward. "Ambassador Novak," he said, his translator rendering his harmonic vocalizations into perfect English. "The Concordat welcomes Earth's representative. You honor us with your presence." Elena bowed her head slightly, exactly as their cultural briefings had instructed. "The United Earth Government extends greetings of peace and friendship to the Saltari Concordat. We come seeking understanding and cooperation between our peoples." Thilax's crest fluttered in what Elena recognized as approval. "Your pronunciation is remarkable for a species with such limited vocal structures." "I'm a quick study," Elena smiled, hoping the expression translated across species. The diplomatic party moved through the station, Thilax guiding Elena through grand chambers that defied conventional architecture. The ceilings soared hundreds of feet overhead, materials flowing and reshaping themselves as they passed. Gravity shifted subtly between sections, accommodating different physiological needs without the jarring transitions human technology would require. "Your achievements are remarkable," Elena commented as they passed a chamber where Saltari scientists manipulated what appeared to be the fabric of space itself with casual gestures. "We have had 50,000 years of civilization to perfect our ways," Thilax replied. "Your species has accomplished much in your brief ascendance." Something in his tone gave Elena pause, a subtle harmonic that her translator didn't quite capture. Was it condescension, or something else entirely? In chambers far removed from the diplomatic procession, Supreme Commander Vexura reviewed intelligence briefings on the human visitors. Holographic displays showed Elena's movements through the station, every word and gesture recorded and analyzed. "They continue their exploration of approved sectors," reported Security Director Malik. "The ambassador shows particular interest in our energy distribution systems." "As expected," Vexura replied, his scales darkening to a deep violet. "And our monitoring devices." "Functioning perfectly." We're recording all communications with their orbital vessel. Vexera studied the holographic display showing the human female. So fragile-looking, these mammals with their soft exteriors and primitive biological systems, yet deeply troubling. "Show me the development curve again," he ordered. A shimmering graph appeared, plotting technological advancement against time. The Xelteri line rose in a steady, dignified progression over thousands of years. The human line, beginning far below, angled sharply upward in recent centuries, an almost vertical ascent. If these projections hold, Malik observed, they will achieve technological parity within 70 years. Potential superiority within 200. Unacceptable. Vexera's breathing slits flared. The Concordat has maintained galactic preeminence since before these creatures walked upright. Their development pattern is unnatural. They adapt quickly. Their brief lifespans seem to accelerate their innovation rather than limit it. Vexera dismissed this with a gesture. Their diplomatic overtures are merely buying time while they advance. The High Council is unanimously convinced that humanity represents an existential threat to Xelteri dominance. The ambassador appears genuinely committed to peaceful relations, Malik noted. No doubt she believes her mission sincere, Vexera conceded. The most effective tools are those that don't know they're being used. We will continue the charade while battle group dominance moves into position. The human colonies in the Proxima sector will be our first targets. And the ambassador? Malik inquired. Vexera's mouthparts curved into what passed for a Xelteri smile. She will serve as the perfect demonstration. When the rest of her kind witness her fate, they will understand the price of challenging the natural order of our galaxy. 3 weeks later, the ceremonial Hall of Concordance shimmered under artificial starlight, its vaulted ceiling projecting the constellations of both Earth and the Xelteri homeworld, an elaborate display of cosmic harmony. Elena stood at the ceremonial table, datapad in hand, reviewing the final treaty text. After exhaustive negotiations, the framework for interspecies cooperation was ready for signing. "We're making history today," she said, smiling at First Emissary Thelax. "Indeed we are," he replied, his scales shifting to a formal pattern of gold and crimson. 2 billion humans across 5 colonies watched the live broadcast, a testament to the mission's importance. On the UES Vigilant, positioned at the edge of the system, Admiral Harrison paced the observation deck, unable to shake his growing unease. "Sir, scanning shows unusual energy signatures in the ceremonial chamber," Lieutenant Park reported. "Pattern matching suggests weapons capacitors charging." Harrison leaned over the console. "Dr. Novak, abort the ceremony." "Repeat, abort immediately." His warning dissolved into static as communication channels went dead. In the Hall of Concordance, Elena noticed the sudden silence of her earpiece but continued her prepared remarks, years of diplomatic training taking over. "With this agreement, we establish a foundation for cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, and mutual." Supreme Commander Vexera entered from a side chamber, flanked by Xelteri military elites in full ceremonial armor. The gathered dignitaries parted, their scales rippling with what Elena now recognized as anticipation. "Is there a change to the proceedings?" she inquired politely, diplomatic smile never wavering despite the sudden shift in atmosphere. "There is, Ambassador Novak," Vexera announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber and across the broadcast. "The Xelteri Concordat has carefully evaluated humanity's place in the galactic order." Elena felt a cold realization spreading through her chest. "Commander, whatever concerns you have, we can address them through diplomatic channels. Your species represents an unacceptable anomaly." Vexera continued as if she hadn't spoken. "Your accelerated development threatens the established hierarchy of civilizations. The High Council has determined that preemptive action is necessary." Elena stepped back from the table, abandoning pretense. "This is a peace summit, protected by interstellar conventions that your people agreed to honor." "Conventions established by the Concordat," Vexera interrupted. They apply only to recognized species. The ceremonial guards raised crystalline weapons. Outside the massive windows, warships decloaked, their weapon sports glowing with building energy. First Emissary Thelax, Elena appealed. Your people agreed to these negotiations in good faith. Thelax's scales flattened against his body. The negotiations served their purpose, Ambassador. Your presence here confirmed what we suspected. Humans are dangerously unpredictable. You came alone, without military escort, into the heart of our territory. Such confidence borders on madness. It's called trust, Elena replied, straightening her spine. The foundation of any meaningful peace. A luxury the Concordat cannot afford. Vexera gestured, and a holographic display activated, showing real-time feeds of Salteri attack fleets approaching human settlements. As we speak, our forces move to neutralize your colonial outposts. Your species will be contained. Across billions of kilometers, in the colonies of New Anchorage, Proxima Haven, and Liberty Point, the first energy barrages tore through civilian habitats. Emergency beacons flared to life, broadcasting distress calls that would take hours to reach Earth. Elena fought to maintain composure as the implications sank in. This act of war will not go unanswered, she warned, voice steady despite her racing heart. You misunderstand, Vexera replied with cold precision. This is not war, it is pest control. The commander raised his primary appendage, and the guards took aim. For the security of the Concordat and the natural order of galactic civilization, the judgment is rendered. He paused, ensuring the broadcast captured his next words. Let all species witness the consequence of evolutionary overreach. On the UES Vigilant, Admiral Harrison watched in horror as the execution unfolded on screen. His fist slammed into the emergency protocols panel. Prepare for immediate jump to Earth, he ordered, voice breaking. And God help the Salteri when we return. Throughout human space, military installations received the emergency broadcast. The murder of Ambassador Elena Novak, transmitted live across all channels, galvanized humanity in a way that Salteri could never have anticipated. In hidden bunkers beneath Earth's surface, in stealth platforms orbiting distant moons, and in classified facilities scattered throughout the solar system, alarm klaxons sounded. Operation Sentinel, the contingency plan that politicians had publicly denied but military leaders had quietly maintained for decades, was now active. Humanity had come in peace. They would not make the same mistake twice. Retribution's dawn. Admiral Karen Marcus's shuttle cut through the darkness of the Kuiper Belt, its stealth systems rendering it invisible to all but the most specialized detection arrays. At 58, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that had witnessed humanity's greatest triumphs and darkest hours, Marcus had hoped to never make this journey. The emergency authorization codes burned in his pocket, physical credentials immune to digital interception that would wake humanity's sleeping giants. Approaching Charon Station, Admiral, the pilot announced. Receiving automated challenge. Marcus placed his palm on the authentication panel. Admiral Karen Marcus, Authorization Sentinel Actual. Validation phrase. Pandora's gifts have been rejected. A moment of silence followed before a synthetic voice responded. Identity confirmed. Welcome home, Admiral. The icy surface of Pluto's largest moon split open, revealing a cavernous hangar bay large enough to swallow a small city. As they descended, Marcus gazed at the installation that officially didn't exist, the arsenal humanity had built while preaching peace. General Diana Reyes met him at the landing pad, her uniform bearing no insignia or rank. Those who served here existed outside the normal chain of command. I was hoping we'd never see this day, she said, bypassing formal salutes. That makes two of us, Marcus replied, falling into step beside her. Status report. All systems operational. We've maintained continuous upgrades as specified in the Sentinel protocols. The fleet is ready for reactivation. They entered a control center buried deep within Charon, where massive holographic displays showed the solar system and beyond. Red markers indicated the colonies under attack, while blue markers represented humanity's known military assets, a pitiful defense against the saltary onslaught. "Show me the true inventory," Marcus ordered. Rise nodded to a technician, who entered a series of commands. The display transformed, green markers blooming throughout the system like stars coming alive at dusk. Hundreds, then thousands of vessels in hidden locations throughout Sol space. "My God," Marcus whispered. "I knew the numbers, but seeing them." Operation Sentinel has maintained battle readiness for 40 years, Rise explained. Each vessel equipped with adaptive systems designed to counter known and theoretical alien technologies. We can have the first wave crewed and operational within 12 hours. Marcus's attention fixed on a massive vessel designation near Neptune's orbit. The UES Nemesis. Fully operational, Rise confirmed. Planet cracker capability intact, though I pray we won't need it. Marcus walked to a secondary console displaying footage of Elena Novak's execution, now being broadcast by emergency channels throughout human space. Her final defiance, standing tall before her murderers, had already become a rallying symbol. The Saltari believe they've encountered a fragmented, peaceful species unprepared for war, Marcus said quietly. They have no idea what they've awakened. Rise gestured to another screen showing civilian evacuations from the outer colonies. The public is panicking. They don't know about any of this. That was by design, Marcus reminded her. After the unification wars, humanity needed to believe we'd moved beyond our violent past. The truth would have undermined everything we were building. And now, Marcus straightened, decision made. Send the activation codes. All of them. Wake every ship, every weapons platform, every defense system. Deploy the Nova Protocol communications package. I want every vessel linked to our tactical network within 6 hours. The Saltari will detect the power signatures once we begin full activation, Rise warned. Good, Marcus replied, his voice hardening. Let them see what's coming. Let them spend their last hours wondering what else they don't know about us. He turned to the communications officer. Send this message to all Sentinel personnel. The emissary has fallen. Lazarus rises. Redemption approaches. Throughout the solar system, in hidden bases buried within moons, disguised as mining operations in the asteroid belt, and concealed beneath the clouds of gas giants, men and women received the call they had trained for, but hoped would never come. Massive doors opened on forgotten installations, revealing sleek warships with predatory lines, their hull markings displaying the ancient symbols of humanity's warrior past alongside modern weaponry that would make even the Saltari pause. The awakening had begun. Fleet Commander Zarinth of the Saltari Concordat studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The initial strikes against human colonies had proceeded with minimal resistance. Their primitive defense systems had barely registered the approaching Saltari vessels before falling silent. Status report on the human response, he ordered. As predicted, Commander, his intelligence officer replied. Their remaining military vessels are consolidating around their home world. Long-range scans detect increased energy output from their lunar bases and orbital platforms, preparations for a desperate defense. Their tactical doctrine is as predictable as their diplomacy was naive, Zarinth noted. A junior officer approached with evident hesitation. Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures near their outer planets. Specify. Unknown configuration, sir. Possibly mining vessels attempting to hide in the radiation belts. Zarinth dismissed the concern with a casual gesture. Civilian evacuation efforts, no doubt. Continue monitoring, but maintain focus on our primary objectives. Aboard the UES Nemesis, Commander Maya Chen studied the holographic representation of the Saltari fleet's staging area. 30 vessels of the First Strike Group floated in formation around her command ship, their matte black hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Each one represented a different class of warship designed for specific tactical scenarios against extraterrestrial threats. Jump calculations complete, Commander, her executive officer reported. All vessels report ready status. Chen nodded, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. The daughter of quantum engineers who had helped design the Sentinel fleet, she had been born into the program, raised from childhood to command if the day ever came. Communication from Admiral Marcus, the comm officer announced. Marcus's face appeared on the main screen, transmitting from Charon Command. The Celteri believe they have 3 days before we can mount any meaningful response. We're going to show them what humanity can accomplish in 3 hours. He paused, his expression grim. You watched Ambassador Novak die. Make it count. Understood, Admiral. Chen turned to her crew, men and women who had trained together for years while maintaining cover identities throughout the solar system. Attention all hands, the moment we've prepared for has arrived. She activated the fleet-wide channel. All vessels, this is Commander Chen. Our mission is precise and limited. We will demonstrate humanity's capability and resolve without engaging in total war. Target weapon systems and propulsion only where possible. We are soldiers, not executioners. Chen settled into the command chair. Execute jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The space near that Celteri staging area rippled as reality itself seemed to tear open. 30 human warships materialized simultaneously in a perfect attack formation, their weapons already locked on pre-calculated targets. On the Celteri command vessel, alarms screamed as sensors registered the impossible. Multiple unknown vessels, the tactical officer shouted. They've appeared inside our defensive perimeter. Xirinth rose from his command chair in disbelief. How? Their technology doesn't include jump capability. Energy signatures don't match any known human vessels, the science officer reported, mandibles clicking in agitation. These ships aren't in our database. Raise shields. Bring weapons online. Xirinth ordered. Too late. The human vessels opened fire with perfect synchronization, their weapons calibrated to specific frequencies that sliced through Celteri shields as if they weren't there. Commander Chen watched with cold satisfaction as the tactical display registered hits across the Celteri fleet. Status report. Targets Alpha through Kappa neutralized, her tactical officer confirmed. Minimal casualties. Their life support systems remain intact. They're attempting to coordinate a counterattack, the sensor operator warned. Chen nodded. Execute secondary strike protocol. Smaller craft launched from the human vessels, each targeting the weapon systems of the remaining Celteri ships with surgical precision. The attacking forces moved with uncanny coordination, as though they had rehearsed this exact battle countless times, which, in simulation, they had. Within 11 minutes, 2/3 of the Celteri fleet hung powerless in space, their weapons disabled and propulsion systems offline. The remaining vessels are attempting to jump out, reported the tactical officer. Let them go, Chen ordered. They have a message to deliver. She opened a channel on all frequencies, ensuring every Celteri ship would receive the transmission. This is Commander Maya Chen of the United Earth ship Nemesis. You murdered our ambassador. You attacked our people. This is our answer. She paused, letting the words sink in. We could have destroyed you completely. Remember that when you report to your leaders. The surviving Celteri ships vanished into jump space, fleeing toward their home systems with news that would shatter the Concordat's confidence. Humanity was not what they appeared to be, and retribution had only just begun. Admiral Marcus stood before the central holographic display in the Earth Defense Command Center, watching as dormant military installations across the solar system came to life. Mining stations transformed as hidden compartments opened to reveal weapon emplacements. Civilian research outposts unfolded additional structures housing advanced sensor arrays. Transport vessels shed their commercial exteriors, revealing sleek warships beneath. It's like watching magic. murmured Lieutenant Commander Jackson beside him. Not magic, Marcus corrected. Foresight. The display shifted to historical footage from 40 years earlier, the signing of the Unification Accords that had ended Earth's final global conflict. The assembled world leaders appeared solemn as they signed the documents establishing the peaceful and cooperative United Earth government. What they didn't broadcast, Marcus explained, was what happened after the cameras stopped rolling. The footage continued, now showing classified material as the same leaders moved to a secure chamber beneath the Geneva complex. There, they signed a second document, the Sentinel Protocols, establishing humanity's shadow defense network. We knew we weren't alone in the universe, Marcus said. The question was never if we would encounter other civilizations, but when, and whether they would come as friends or conquerors. Jackson studied the historical figures with newfound respect. They built peace for public consumption while preparing for war in secret. They built a shield while extending a hand, Marcus corrected. Ambassador Novak believed in that extended hand. She deserved better than what happened. Marcus accessed a secured file with his command codes. Elena Novak's personnel file appeared, including her final log entry recorded just before the peace ceremony. I believe today marks the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. The stars no longer represent an unknown frontier filled with potential threats, but a community we are about to join. The Xeltari have much to teach us, and we have much to offer in return. This is what we've worked toward since we first looked up at the night sky and wondered if we were alone. Today, we answer that question definitively, and the answer is beautiful. Marcus closed the file, a muscle working in his jaw. She died believing in peace. We will honor her by remembering that war is sometimes necessary to protect it. 3 days later, a Xeltari diplomatic vessel approached Earth under heavy escort. The massive screens in Times Square, Tiananmen Plaza, and the European Union concourse showed the ship's approach, surrounded by humanity's newly revealed military might. Supreme Councilor Xilara, the highest authority in the Xeltari Concordat, stood before a hastily assembled human delegation in the United Nations Assembly Hall. The Concordat offers its sincere regrets for the misunderstanding that led to recent hostilities. She began, her translator barely keeping up with her rapid vocalizations. Misunderstanding. Admiral Marcus replied from his position at the head of the human delegation. You murdered our ambassador and attacked our colonies. That's not a misunderstanding. It's an act of war. A regrettable error in judgment by military elements acting without full council approval. Xilara countered, her scales shifting to submissive patterns. The Concordat wishes to re-establish diplomatic relations and the time for diplomacy passed when Ambassador Novak was executed. Marcus interrupted. Now we negotiate terms of surrender. The terms were non-negotiable. Immediate withdrawal of all Xeltari forces from human territory, reparations for the attacked colonies, and a demilitarized zone extending 50 light-years from Earth in all directions. Most significantly, the Xeltari would acknowledge humanity's right to develop without interference and recognize Earth as a sovereign power. As the Xeltari delegation departed, their once proud representatives now subdued and compliant, a memorial service was held for Ambassador Elena Novak. Her image was projected on the wall of the United Nations building, her final words to humanity before departing on her mission playing for all to hear. We go to the stars not as conquerors, but as explorers, not as warriors, but as diplomats. The greatest strength of humanity has never been our weapons or technology, but our capacity for compassion, understanding, and growth. If we remember this, then no matter what awaits us among the stars, we will face it with dignity and honor. Admiral Marcus stood at attention as her words faded, a single tear tracking down his weathered face. The Sentinel program would continue, its existence now known to humanity and the wider galaxy. But its purpose had shifted, no longer a last resort, but a visible reminder that peace required vigilance. The stars had proven more dangerous than humanity had hoped, but not more dangerous than they had prepared for. And in the memory of a brave ambassador who had given everything for peace, they would continue to extend a hand to those who came in friendship, while keeping the other firmly on the shield that protected them all.